What's up, everybody? This is the LFGRX podcast. Let's freaking go. Here with the co-founders of GoRX Fitness. I'm Trevor Hall, and this is Andrew Towers. And we are joined here with Jake from Garage Gym Experiment. Jake, what's going on?
Not much. How's it going?
Oh, not too
Doing
bad.
good,
Not
man.
too
Thanks for
Good.
having me.
Yeah, for sure. Getting hyped about Home Gym Con. Can't wait.
Oh, can't wait.
Yes.
6 months out.
Yeah, how's
Next
the planning
year's-
going?
The planning is going well. So I think for anybody that has followed along, it kind of took off right away this year. So
It looked like
we had
it.
Home Gym
Yeah.
Con. We had Home Gym Con at the end of or middle of April, and like the next week, I just started reaching out to vendors to sign up for next year, which was over 365 days away, and was able to get like 80% returning within like that first few weeks. So it like
Let's go.
it just like yeah, it started off way better than I could have even hoped for. And then it's like once we had like 25 vendors, it was much easier to go out and reach out to the companies that didn't go last year. So
Mhm.
I was able to like really go off of that momentum and reach out. And then I think a lot of the vendors that didn't go the first year kind of had FOMO because it did get a lot of good press. Most everybody had nothing but good things to say about it. And yeah, they just signed up right away. We've filled up over 4 times more space than was filled up
Oh
last
my
year.
gosh. No kidding.
Oh,
So you're
man,
using the
that's
conference
pretty
room
nuts.
this year? Or this
So
this
yeah,
upcoming-
we filled so that there's a huge exhibition hall, right? I mean, huge for like what we're doing. We were able to fill that up, and we're starting. Last year where we had the presentations, there's like 3 of those rooms that we'll have open, and we're going to start filling. We have started filling up some space in there, but we'll have live podcasts there, and then we'll also have an Olympic weightlifting meet happening in that conference room upstairs. So
Dude,
there'll
it's going to
be
be sanctioned?
everything that's going to happen there is going to be sanctioned. So we'll have
Let's go.
Dude.
yeah,
Yeah,
really
dude.
cool. So and I was really able to just like partner with experts in each of their
Yes.
domains, mostly from people that were there last year. So Will Fleming, who's a weightlifting masters champion, he runs 1 kilo. He's basically manning the Olympic weightlifting meet. Andrew from Bells of Steel runs Indy West Side Barbell.
Mhm.
And he is he does powerlifting meets. He's a meet director, whatever you call them. He's manning that. So Bells of Steel is really supporting that. We almost had an arm lifting meet last year.
Really?
But it kind of like fell through. So that's the sport of like grip strength.
Yep.
Mhm.
But that's going to be happening on the Friday. Ricardo was really close to coming last year, which would have been a cool thing to have year one and like the only thing. That it just fell through because it was just a little bit. I think he had like a family vacation, and the family vacation almost got canceled, and then it was like back and forth. We might have it, but he's super pumped, and we have a lot of companies who are supporting that one already. There's actually some big surprises happening with that one, with some major names that I can't say
Can't
here.
disclose yet? Oh, no.
But super cool
Yes.
things happening there.
Let's go.
With arm lifting, and then strongman events. So Kurt, the Kurt Locker
Yep.
is owning that one, and he's created the event. He has programmed the workouts that are necessary, and First Form's really supporting that one. So it's actually they're actually the title sponsor for the strongman event. So
No
yeah,
kidding.
they're not just like last year we had the deadlift like we had like random things people could do, but this year it's actually a lot of legitimate things. And then we'll have the deadlift party too. So
Nice.
I think that was kind of the surprise highlight from last year. It just like organically turned into something awesome. And Surplus Strength is going to be owning that. So this year, a lot of things like people are taking control of. So it's easier to just grow. So yeah. And also just like while I'm talking about it, the fact that we have Rogue, Sornex, Titan, Rep, the big four companies coming is just like monstrous.
Massive.
Yeah, it's huge.
Massive.
Absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, like, that was another thing that just like came from the momentum. We had, I don't know, maybe 40 companies already. And I got the best email ever. It was like, I reached out to like 10 companies that I wanted to still come. And I was like, hey, just FYI, we have about 1,000 square foot left on the exhibition hall. And it was like a few days later. And then the Sornex rep reached out and was like, hey, do you still have the 1,000 square feet, which is like a decent like space for like 3 or 4 or 5 companies potentially. And I was like, yeah, how much of it would you like? And I actually, I think we had less than that, but I was like, what? We're going to make this work. We're going to make this work. And he was like, yeah, we'll take 1,000 square feet. So I had to like, I was like, yep, deal. So like so I had to move basically things around to like the other conference room. It's like, we're just going to fill up this exhibition hall. And then I was able to go out and reach out to Rogue. I was like, hey guys, Sornex just signed up. You guys want in? And then like they were in, and so it was really just
that's awesome.
Going off the momentum. Yeah.
You got to walk us through how you started from a dude with a home gym into the organizer of Home Gym Con and making all these connections within the industry. Can you please walk us through this journey? Because it's no doubt got to be rich of insights and wisdom, advice that we could all take for ourselves as home gym business owners.
Sure. And I will preface that, I can do something like, I can humbly do something like Home Gym Con, which was still kind of a shot in the dark when I started it last year. I was like, this could work, this couldn't. But I was able to
time last year. I mean,
it was
I feel
6
like
months.
I was going to say it was pretty truncated, and that makes sense that not as many companies wanted to or were even able to, right? Like that's just a short amount of time.
Yeah, and I started reaching out right around Black Friday time, like and that was not on their radar. They were all focused on holiday sales, and I'll let me just circle back to that.
Yeah.
And just like explain, like, this was a 6 years in the making process that ultimately led to something like this to be created. So like the start of Garage Gym Experiment, which was like 6.5, 7 years ago. So I had my first daughter, and I was your typical commercial gym goer. So I went to LA Fitness every day before work, before my 9 to 5, and worked out. I went to work, came home, saw my daughter for very little, and like it just felt wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I had like a little home gym in place, so I just started utilizing it more. Maybe starting off on just weekends, and then slowly but surely every once in a while I'd just do home workouts. It eventually morphed to half the time, then full time. And then like somewhere along in that process, I just like understood the benefits that this home gym was providing my life. Mm-hmm. And I looked like I did have entrepreneurial aspirations, and because like, there's got to be something I can do with this. Like I did have a business mindset from like day one. I was like, this is helping me. It can help others. Let me just start something. So I think the biggest thing that helped, like the big hurdle, I'm trying to speak to like the people listening are most likely thinking about starting their own home gym businesses or just businesses in general. Like the biggest hurdle is like being afraid to look stupid. Especially if you're going to do something so like social media, you know? So like, and like you start posting pictures of your home gyms, you're like, there's like 2% of the people looking that understand. Everybody else is like, what is going on? Why are you doing that? So I think the biggest hurdle for most is like, you got to get over, you're going to do things that aren't going to work. You've got to do things that most people aren't going to understand. And you just have to like do something every day. So I think like for me, that looked like starting an Instagram page and posting something once a day. I did start a blog as well. And I maybe posted something every few weeks.
Was this Garage Gym Experiment then? All the way back then? Yeah, it was
GarageGymExperiment.com. Okay, no and I actually, so I told you I had entrepreneurial things. I tinkered around with other, like the prior few years, I tinkered around with other ideas. Like I did like a 5 a.m. weights, something like that. Did something along the lines, I wanted to do something along the lines of like Indianapolis fitness, like something like that. And there are a few other things. But ultimately it was like, I wasn't consistent with them and they fizzled. And then I went to this and I really just kind of worked on it every day for half an hour every single day. And then like at this time, nobody was really doing anything like it other than Coop. And then there was Garage Gym Life. But like I think
Coop was this like 2018 time frame-ish?
17. And I think Coop maybe had 10,000 followers, but I had like never heard of him before I started this. And then Garage Gym Life, you know, he was around. He was selling banners. I think I remember there was a few other like websites, but nobody was like really attacking social incredibly hard other than Coop, I think. So, so yeah, I just started that. And like, honestly, the blog, if you're familiar with Neural News, the blog started off as kind of like a shitty version of that. It was, and it was like, it was rough. But it was like, I was doing something though. So in my spare time. So I think, that's kind of how it started. You know, as you keep going, you just try and improve and improve and improve.
What kept you going? Right? Because the entrepreneurial journey is full of ups and downs. And as we were talking before we got started, you know, we just went through a down, you know. What kept you motivated? What kept you going? What was the thing that told you this is worth pursuing?
Yeah, I think the big thing was I did steadily grow. Like I was growing. So like by 2020, I think I probably had 75,000 followers on Instagram. I also didn't like my corporate job. So I did not like it. It was fine. It paid the bills. I could go home and I didn't have to worry too much about it. But I like dreaded thinking about doing that when I was like 40. It was like, I did not want to do that. And I honestly had a decent job that wasn't like, I had decent jobs where I worked with good people. But like, I was not a corporate, like I was just not, I didn't love the corporate lifestyle. So I think like that, and I had a vision. I didn't necessarily know what it was going to be, but I knew if you get the attention, you can do something with it.
What was your vision? What would you say? And I imagine it's morphed over time, and it's gotten more. You've got more clarity as the years have unfolded. But then, what was your vision for Garage Gym Experiment, and how far off was the vision?
Man, I don't even know if I had a specific vision. I believed that more people could benefit from a home gym. And I thought that like it was going to happen a lot. Like I really thought about, so I had my daughter um, um, like a little bit before a lot of my friends. So I think I saw the benefit before a lot of and I could see my once my friends had kids, I could see them seeing value in a home gym. So I thought I caught the wave before the rest of the population could. So I'd always had that in mind. And another thing was, I think for the first 3 years, I didn't really monetize. I don't think I made any profit at all, but I could have if I wanted to. I was just trying to grow. I was thinking about it long term. I always had a 5-year goal to be able to make it my full-time job in 5 years. So that was I think that was the big thing. I thought about it from a longer term perspective than a lot of people. And yeah, I don't really like talking about myself, but I hope this helps other people.
It will certainly, man.
I thought about it from a 5-year perspective. That was my goal, make it my full-time job. And I also thought, like, if this doesn't work, but it's still like growing, and it's definitely something, it looks good on my resume. It was more of like a I couldn't lose type of thing. So yeah, I think I just honestly, going back to the storyline, I did something every day for 3 or 4 years, and then COVID happened, and that skyrocketed everything. So I was able to, like, there weren't too many resources, and you hate to say you took advantage from COVID, but that did skyrocket the Instagram. It got more website traffic, and just like the general interest in home gyms rose. So I just kept doing what I was doing. I was able to make this my full-time job, about a year later, year and a half later, maybe.
So late 2021, early 2022?
Yeah, it was like middle of 2021.
So were you in that same corporate job basically that whole time then?
I worked for 2 companies during that span.
Got it. Just kind of the same role throughout.
Same types of role, yeah, for the most part.
Makes sense.
So yeah, and then to take a lot, like going back, if I would have known what was going to happen, I would have went full time at the start of COVID, like 100%. But I was also able to I ended up saving like a year's worth of salary. So because I didn't go out and I didn't go spending much. I didn't go get a new car. You can see I still drive a 2014 car. And, so I was able to, I saved up a lot, took a lot of the risk out. And then I actually had kind of I had a little bit of trouble adjusting to full time, because I think when I only had like 10 to 20 hours a week of extra time to work on something, you really know what you want to do. Like you know, you have a ton of focus, and it's easy to kind of choose what's most important. And then when I went full time, I started doing a bunch of different things, and it was all a learning thing. But it was definitely a transition.
So if you could unpack a little bit, I'm curious, because a lot of people, I think, wonder, when do I take that leap? When do I step from a side hustle to being my main hustle? Right? Was the revenue being generated, and you had that security, you had that year's worth of revenue? Salary banked. What was that security that you had, that you could make that leap, and that basically leap of faith too, right? I mean, you're assuming a ton of risk when you go from a side hustle and make that your main hustle. And I'm assuming, and I'm just curious if you could unpack a little bit what that, like, blanket, that security blanket that you had in place.
Yeah, I mean, I did have the year's worth of savings, and then I also had rolling revenue. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
like it was consistent enough to where I was comfortable. Like I was easily going to be able to match my corporate salary at that point. I think it actually did dip. Like after the COVID, there was definitely a dip. And so like, but like, I think it just depends on different situations. Like if I had been 25, I, and like, I didn't have kids, it like, I would strongly urge somebody to take that risk as soon as possible. But I was 32 or something like that, and I had student loans still.
Yep.
I had a kid on the way. So it was not like the easiest decision, even though like from an outside perspective,
yeah, for sure,
most people would probably say, just do it.
Yeah, there's so much to think about, right? Like you have benefits, you've got, long-term planning and stuff like that you don't necessarily factor into a corporate job, right? It's just kind of a given. But then when you think about, oh, I got to replace that too. And so then you're all of a sudden, you're like, man, my costs might skyrocket from that standpoint. Because all of a sudden, instead of it being a part of some group plan or whatever, then, I'm jumping into paying for it myself. And yeah, it gets crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just different for everybody. I don't really have a great answer.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, there's no one right answer. Right?
Yeah, that too.
Everybody's situation is different. And so, that makes total sense.
Right. And then so I mentioned I like struggled to really find a rhythm as far as like what to spend my time on, because there's so many different options. Especially if you're not like just a specific reviewer. So I think that would be, honestly, that would be my advice to somebody from the very beginning, is to try and just find one thing and pound that as much as you possibly can. Like if you're going to be a reviewer, be a reviewer. If you're going to do, a blog, just do the blog, like the blog focusing on the gym lifestyle. If you're going to do a newsletter, do a newsletter. If you're going to do a podcast, do a podcast, and just think about it from a long-term perspective. And if you like, for example, I've really been focusing on Neural News the last year, and it has gotten so much better.
It's fantastic, man. Yeah.
It has gotten so much better. And like the unsubscribe rate is basically zero. Like people that are on it really enjoy it. So like I wish I would have been doing that for the last 6 years. But yeah, you live and you learn. If we fast forward to like thinking about Home Gym Con, so it was middle of the summer last year. Kyle from Kaizen DIY was working out in my home gym, right here. And he was like, I have an idea for you. And he was like, you should do a convention. I just went to Comic-Con, or I think it was Comic-Con. And he said it was awesome. He was like, we could definitely do something like that with the home gym space. And I was like, man, I don't know. That seems like a lot. And I've had people, it had been on my radar in the past to do, because I know that's like what people, like content creators in specific niches do. And then I've had a few people bring it up to me in the past, but I wasn't there. But since I did like have a little bit of a cushion, because I did like basically work 2 jobs for a long time. It gave me a little bit of like ammo to like go all in on something, to take a chance. So I just decided I'm going to do it. So And actually, let me rewind about 6 months prior, maybe like a year prior. I started the podcast. So I started the podcast. It didn't necessarily get like thousands of listeners each week, but I was able to have really good conversations with founders of companies, like really good conversations, and they were able to tell their stories that they'd never been able to do before. And the most passionate home gym listeners listened. So I was able to and while podcasting, you're able to really, I don't know what it is about it, but you're able to really get a good relationship with somebody. There's just something about it.
I agree.
So I had been doing that for a while, and going back to like Kyle mentioning it, like I said, I was like, I don't think so. And then I was just thinking about it for like a few weeks, and I was like, I'm going to do it. Specifically thinking about the conversation, like knowing I have a good relationship with a lot of home equipment suppliers. And like, I didn't think there was anybody in like a better position to do it. So might as well be me. And just like started reaching out to companies. And like I said, it was like October. We scheduled the event for next April. It was October, and we started reaching out. So it was like a 6-month time frame, and like 12 signed up right away, with like no guarantee of like anything. And I think all of them had been on the podcast, like you guys. So yeah. It was, I probably reached out to 100 companies, 12 said yes right away. It was something like 12. All of them had been on the podcast, I think, at least like 80, 90%. And it was like an awesome start. Like 12, like looking back, I was like, ooh, only 12. But at that time, it was awesome. So it was a good start. And we were rolling. And then I didn't get any more for like 2 months. So here we are, like rolling into like 4 or 5 months out, and I have like maybe 12 vendors, which like for whatever reason, it was still cool. It was like, this is going to be tough. So it was starting to get, it was a little nerve wracking for sure.
Where was that tipping point then? Like in that 4 months, I guess, what was the tipping point or the catalyst to go, all right, this is definitely going on and it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah. So I think it might've been the end of 2022. We got a few more trickled in. I think like Squat Max came in. And then I want to say it's when Rep changed their mind. So, maybe, end of January, Rep decided, like they had originally said no, and then they said yes. And I do think like, we had a great group of people that were already coming, but the fact that Rep decided to come and then just show their support,
huge.
It was huge, and it legitimized it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it made it feel more legitimate. Yeah, yes. When that happened.
Yes.
Yeah. And so the very next year, Rogue is joining it. Sornex, like, yeah, dude. Yeah. So, anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, and a lot of it was. So it really became like a trick. It trickled in, and then like after Rep joined, more people came in, and I think we had like just over 30 vendors last year. Something like that. So it ended up being a really like, it looked pretty full. So yeah, I think like that, and then going back and just like keeping the momentum going. I think everybody at the event, whether you are a person or a vendor, had a good time.
It was an awesome time.
But I also want to emphasize, like, it was a like you build trust for 5-6 years, and then you're able to do something, because a lot of it was like a lot of the vendors that ended up signing up was because community members would tag them in posts and be like, we'd love to see you there.
Mm.
Because I can't remember who specifically, but there was a time where someone tagged Rep, and they looked at it and they said, we're gonna think about it. And it was after they had already said no. So it was really like a combination of things why this worked. You know? So, but I think a lot of it is just like, yeah, just go for it. And you're either going to learn or you're going to thrive, I guess, or it's going to work. So as long as you have that like long-term perspective, you're not going to give up when it fails. So I am very, very, very appreciative to all of the companies that came out to year one, specifically those first 12 that signed up right away, because if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't have worked. And then all of the others, though, because there was no guarantee. Like, it was in French Lick, Indiana. Most of them probably have never heard of it. There was no guarantee that it was going to work. There was no guarantee that they were going to have fun. There was no so yeah, it was those companies all just like put their faith in the community. They wanted to meet their fellow industry members, I guess you can say. And signed up again. So yeah, it's a lot of talking.
All right. Is there anybody from last year? You don't have to name who it is, but that dropped out and is not coming back?
There's like a handful. Like Perch mentioned, like they just don't know if the home gym market's right for them.
Oh, okay.
A couple people were like, we don't know if we're even going to be in business next year. There was only one that I think had like really bad feedback, and they were I think it's because they were looking for more of like a trade show experience, where this really isn't a trade show experience. It is the community coming together as like an event, and it's more about the quality of the people that go, that you meet, rather than the quantity. I don't know what it's going to look like in 5 years, but I don't know we want it to be just a massive convention where locals come in and steal away your time with your most the best potential customers you have. So I don't know. Like, we're gonna learn as we go. We're gonna figure out how this goes in year 2. Maybe that's a different event. Maybe it's a completely different opportunity for me or someone else. But I think there's definitely something here. I think every vendor, every person who went there last year would kind of agree that they had just a great experience, and they don't necessarily want it to be like the Arnold. So
got it.
And I think like if you can really get your fellow influencers involved and the online content as well, then you can keep it like that. So, but we'll see what's needed. I want to grow it appropriately.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
Even though it's like gotten quite a bit larger from year 1 to year 2, but it is more than just, it's year 1 was a proof of concept and also a full year to plan it out. So,
what's from the standpoint of like French Lick Resort and everything, what's their capacity? I mean, could you grow the same way from year 1 to year 2, from at year 2 to year 3, and could French Lick handle that? I mean,
probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be a good
But
problem to
you could,
have if
Yeah,
that's
I
a,
mean, that would be awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it just depends what we want.
Mhm.
Like, and by we, I mean me, the vendors, the community members that go. If like if I get the feedback that like, hey, this year it just wasn't worth that flight to Indianapolis and a couple hour drive, then we'll figure something else out. But I think the feedback from last year was like, that was worth it for us.
Yeah.
And I also am really focused on keeping, and I don't want to sound rude, but like the quality of attendees high. So like every person you talk to is valuable. And like, and that is something that people that put together events keep in mind. Like not all events are supposed to be for like your average person.
Yeah.
So it just needs to be enough of a priority to get to take the time to go. If it is, then if that's the only people that are going, that's going to make it a really good event.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? As far as, I mean, it's only year one. It was only year one. We got year two coming up in a few months. From a user perspective, so we understand like what the vendors are looking for, at least the value that a vendor can get out of it. What value do you want for the users, the people that come, what do we call them? Attendees, right? Is this to get an opportunity to put their hands on equipment? Is it an opportunity to meet the influencers that they follow and enjoy and consume their content? What are the what's the value that we bring, or you're bringing to this community? And where do you see that evolving?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a number of things. So for the people that are traveling from like an airplane, I think it's to meet your online friends, to meet like-minded folks, and just to have like a good time, because it really is. It's just a good time, to where it's like it's a good mix of events that you can go to, equipment you can touch, and then everybody like stays around. So it's like you can go out and you can have a good time at the casino. You can go to the group dinners, and those are just a ton of fun. If you really want to, you can go golfing. So I think like for most people, like people listening to a podcast like this, it's to meet like-minded folks and like people that you've chatted with, and then to meet the names behind the brands is pretty cool as well. So I think that's the biggest thing. I think also just the ability to see what is out there, as far as equipment. You can get your hands on literally 1,000 pieces of equipment if you want to, and just to have a really good idea of what you want to build your home gym out with. So I think that's like also in consideration. If you really want, like, there is plenty of time to also do a competition. So there's plenty of competition. So if you're like, I want to do a powerlifting meet, I might as well do it with the home gym community.
Yeah.
So there's that. What would you guys say? I mean, what did you guys get out of it?
Yeah. Well, let me first say that what I love about Home Gym Con and the value that it brings to users is quite literally can be scaled down to this micro gym concept that we're trying to, build in this community. We're trying to build around starting a small micro gym business. Community. That's one of the things that people get value out of Home Gym Con. Getting a chance to try equipment before they buy it. This is one of the things that we are really pushing. We actually just partnered with Brian from Wait It Out. He's going to affiliate his showcase room. It's going to become a micro gym that will provide his customers an opportunity to get their hands on their equipment. So, that idea, competitions, we've got 2 affiliates right now. Maybe myself and Trevor, we're still working it out here locally, are going to be participating in the garage gym competition.
I mean,
It's about
the value that I feel like we brought out of Home Gym Con last year was just meeting the people in the industry and being able to maintain those relationships throughout the last year and build those relationships. I mean, from the standpoint of our business, it just allows us to collaborate. It feels more natural to try to collaborate with people that you've already met and know, instead of just
for sure.
sit here and pound the pavement and hit up all these different influencers and stuff like that and be like, hey, you want to collaborate with us? And they don't know who the hell we are. But then when we go to Home Gym Con, all of a sudden they go, oh, we get it. We understand what your drive is. We understand that you want to, we're trying to build the community. We want to, raise up the community and increase that access and everything. And so, when we got out there and actually had these conversations with people and industry partners and stuff like that, they also gravitated towards that. And it just showed that shared vision of just increasing the community, increasing the garage gym industry as a whole.
Yeah. I mean, evidenced by that, we have Garage Gym Jeff. So Jeff Murphy, he's on our team now. He has an affiliate micro gym, and we met him in person at Home Gym Con. We're actually still chatting and communicating pretty regularly with at least half the people that came to our seminar and participate in the seminar. We've maintained relationships with these people. I mean, Brian from Waited Out, we made the connection with him. We've stayed in touch since Home Gym Con, and now they're going to be our first vendor aligned micro gym, right? Which is a space that we want to move into because we want to give vendors an opportunity to get their equipment into people's hands, globally, ultimately is our goal. Right. So for us, the value of Home Gym Con wasn't in the return on investment, so to speak. It wasn't measured in the bottom line. What for us, it was measured in the connections and the community that we can build around Home Gym Con. And so for us, it was tremendously worthwhile event, 100%. And I drove 11 hours there and I drove 11 hours home. I'm going to do the same thing this year. Right? Like
I spent 30 hours in the Louisville airport. So
yes, you did.
Love it.
Yep. And I'm part of the problem there. I dropped them off super early
I
in the
more
morning.
Than happy to be at the event. More than happy. I mean, and Andrew and I, we partnered up last, a year and a half ago and did all this, and we hadn't met each other in person yet.
Yeah, that was the first time. I mean, exactly.
We had talked to each other every single morning on our daily stand up and going through and working on, our business and everything. And we still had not been in person. And Home Gym Con was that first chance for us
to have a beer together first time. Yeah.
And it was great.
I think that is like, I going into it, I understood the value of people are going to have the networking opportunities. However, I didn't necessarily think that so many would truly benefit as much as they have. Like you mentioned, it's just so much easier for you to reach out to someone after you've met them in person. I think about just all of the, even the handful of influencers were there. They have such a much better relationship with the providers to collaborate with in the future as well. And then I also just think about everyone that left was more motivated and inspired to do a better job of what they were doing than when they came. It's just very inspiring to be around as many people, and you're pumped up to get back to work. And you just have a lot of momentum. And then I also just want to emphasize, as I talked about, just kind of using momentum to grow it and using FOMO and those sorts of and peer pressure from comments and those sorts of things. But the reason it's growing is because it's a true value. It's a true value to a lot of different people to go and meet people for a number of different reasons. So, there's I think I also just think about as far as a business thing, a business podcast that we're on is just you just kind of start something and you figure it out as you go. And you may, you may like complain. Like I was just on a podcast with other like content creators, and there's a lot of people who kind of just complain about how hard it is to monetize. Sure, you guys have the same thoughts. Like it's even like just starting a business is hard to monetize as well. So I think it's just kind of on you to, like, I've said this before, but you have to take the long-term approach and just figure it out.
Show up.
You have to just like figure out how you're going to do it. Like that's you have to create value.
That's the most common thing people tell us on the podcast when we ask similar questions, like Joe Gray from Grudge and Competition. The thing that he says that he did right, I think he says the one thing I did right was I kept showing up. You know, Deion Sanders, I love this quote. He says, keep making plays. And he goes through a list of everyday life things and he's like, keep making plays. You know, at the end of the day, it's just keep making plays, keep showing up, right? And ultimately, you know, things will fall into place. And it might not unfold the way you thought it was going to unfold. And that's okay because it certainly hasn't unfolded for you the way you envisioned it. And probably it looks better than you could have even hoped it would have been. Right. It's, you know, it's the most common thing people say, especially in this community. And I imagine that's true for most spaces, but keep showing up.
I listen to a lot of business podcasts and books, and like a big thing that people say is like to like truly make it, it's most likely going to take a decade. So like if you're not willing to put in a decade of your life to like try and get out of wherever you are, then you're probably not going to. So like, and just think about it. Like I'm on year 7. Bro. I still like have not made it. Like I'm still like writing newsletters every day. I'm still blogging every day. I'm still trying to figure out how to work this stupid Instagram algorithm. So like I do make a good living, but it's like if I stop tomorrow, or like things go down, I'm back to the corporate world. Like there's no, like there's still quite a bit of work to do. And so like, but I think about it like I want to make it in a decade. So that I think that's another thing that like if you're thinking about starting, or if you're on year 1, year 2, it could very well take a decade of like consistent work. So you really have to enjoy what you're doing, figure out a way to make it so that you like what you're doing and do it at a rate that you can. So
stay disciplined, right? Because that motivation is not always going to be there every single day, right? But if you stay disciplined, you'll still continue, you know, moving forward and getting stuff done, even if you're not motivated for that day or that week or whatever.
Yeah, and you're not going to know everything to do. You're not going to know what the next step is always. You're not going to know what the appropriate decision is going to be always. One of the things, you know, so I spent over a decade in the Army, and one of the things that, you know, I walked away from that experience with was being okay with the 70% plan, finished plan, right? Like, you know, a good commander is going to make a decision without all the facts on the ground. And you've got to make that decision and make a call. Ultimately, the worst leaders don't make decisions or don't make a call. And you're not always going to have the facts. So, you know, one of the things that I like to tell people when we talk, you know, to leads or people that are exploring the idea is you don't need to know everything. We have a good guide. We've got a comprehensive guide here that can help you walk through the process, but you don't need to know everything to get started. You just need to know that this is something you want to do. You've got a vision for it and you keep making plays. You know what I mean? Like, and it's going to fall into place. And it's evident in so many of our lives, I think, in whether business or elsewhere, right? In sport. I think that's the most consistent. It's certainly, like I was saying it before, it's the most consistent feedback that we get from people when we ask similar questions.
Yeah. Right. I mean, even like, just like thinking about what you guys are doing, as long as you like can survive and you're still like motivated to create something, you could create something entirely different. So, and also like, as I was thinking about it, I thought I was going to create like the caffeine and kilos for the home gym industry. That's what I really liked, caffeine and kilos. Like I just like, Olympic weightlifting. I think I can do something like that in the home gym industry. And I thought I was going to create an e-commerce store and and, and it just like was so hard. It was so hard. I remember I had a little store, it was probably like 3 or 4 years ago, where I was selling rings, fat grips, ab mats with the GGE logo on it, this and that, and like every single order I was losing money. It was so hard. And that's like, there were definitely like phases like that I like forgot about as I was telling the story that I'm thinking about right now. But like, as long as you like can like stay on the, like, if you have like a, not necessarily a mission, but like something that you believe, I don't know, maybe mission's the right word, but if you, as long as you're like preaching the same story, there's many ways that you can go about it and just be able to figure it out.
Good shit, dude. Thanks for joining the podcast, man. What a pleasure it is to have you here. And it was a pain in the ass making this happen. You know, the stars didn't align for weeks.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right,
man.
We got it. We got you nailed down. Our schedules nailed down. Trevor and I, our schedules are so misaligned right now. Or they
This
were
is the first
for
podcast
weeks.
we've done together.
Yeah,
So
actually, you're right. Well, shit.
Well,
Awesome.
Just think about like, if you are doing this in 2 years, your podcasts are going to be so good compared to where they are now.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I hope.
yeah. I always look back. Joe Rogan's first podcast was like trash. You know,
Was it? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if you look at clips, it looked terrible. I guess. You know, I mean, not.
Yeah.
I guess it did. It
Yeah.
looked terrible.
My
You know, and now it's
podcast.
Joe Rogan.
We're
It's fine.
bad.
Yeah. You know, I said, you know, it's funny going back to the conversation, then I guess then we'll wrap up. But, you know, we knew we needed to start a podcast, right? We
Mhm.
knew that this is going to be the easiest way for us to get consistent content out there. So let's just do it. It's not going to look perfect. It's not going to
Yeah.
look great. It's, you know, like we don't even have an intro yet, and that's cool. Whatever, right? Because people don't care. And like you said in the beginning, you know, it's going to be the most passionate people in the home gym space that come to the home gym con. And it's those quality people that you want to keep bringing. It's going to be the most passionate people about their home gym and that want to start their own business, that they're going to come and listen. Right. And so those are the people that we're speaking to, and it'll grow over time, but it'll always remain niche, and that's okay. The point is we took that step, you know, it's not perfect, but the decision had to be made. And so we're going after it.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, have you heard that? I know we're closing, but have you heard that? I forget who wrote it, but there's a very famous blog post in like the business tech community called 1,000 True Fans. And it's like, if you can
look it up.
if you can get 1,000 true fans, you can make a living for the rest of your life. Like it doesn't have to be like, if you're making YouTube videos, you don't necessarily have to get 100,000, 1 million every single time. If you can get 1,000 true fans, that's more valuable than a million casual listeners.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Preach,
that's also
brother.
something to like really keep in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And that like
Look that up.
just the like quality, like I was able to turn 12 into whatever. So
Mhm.
so yeah, it's more about the quality with the podcast. And I'm sure we can talk offline about that. But that is, like it's definitely not like thousands and thousands aren't listening each week, but it's had a huge impact on the relationships I've been able to make and
Mhm.
ultimately help with my business. So
Yeah, it's been
so,
great.
yeah. And it took a while. It took like it takes time.
Yeah.
But before you know it, after someone listens to 10 episodes, they're like your best friend. They're not afraid to message you, and yeah. So
That's funny. Yeah, you definitely, I mean, with the podcast game, you get definitely a more intimate insight into, you know, whoever the host is, right? And because it's hard to fake episode after episode after episode of, you know, if you're trying to curate a personality, but you know, if you're just being genuine, then people get to understand who you are from a genuine point of view, and they'll connect with you more through that than if you're trying to just, you know, be an actor every single time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well said.
Yeah. Well, man, yeah, like you said, thank you for joining us today. This is awesome. It's always a pleasure to get to talk to you and everything.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you for having us on so early in our journey with even GoRX. I mean,
Really?
you know, over a year ago you had us on, and we got to have conversations with you. And that legitimized us to the point where we were able to open up communication with other people in the industry.
Right.
And it just, it kind of snowballed from there. So, I mean, thank you for that. Thank you for
really
growing this
cool
community and everything.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Anytime.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Sounds
we'll
good.
definitely have you back on, especially after Home Gym Con too.
Yes. You're going to have to recap that. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. That's
All
a
right.
wrap.